I enjoy coming to work every day knowing that clients are depending on me to guide them through whatever financial needs they have.
Every client we have is different. And so it's really about finding out what's really the most important thing per client.
With financial planning, everything is interconnected. So a comprehensive plan means that you're taking care of income needs now, income needs in the intermediate term, and income needs long term. We'll do an asset cycle portfolio. We'll do a risk-aligned test. We'll do a life insurance audit or a life insurance review.
And so when we build a deep relationship with our clients, then we can take a step back and then we can look at different options to help them specifically get to their goals. One of the things I feel our job is as advisors is to introduce strategies to clients that maybe they did not know that they were out there. But it's our idea, our job to come out and say, have you ever thought about this?
And the planning it's not always about income, but a lot of it is also about the legacy. So the element of family is very important to us, and it's important to our clients.
Hello, my name is Steve Jablonski, and I'm the host of Financially Speaking with Jeff Bush. Today we have an exciting topic and really a basic topic of insurance. But before I get into that, I'd like to introduce Jeff, and we've had some very exciting things over the past year about informed family being in the news. So with that, Jeff?
Yeah. Hi, Steve. Welcome to the show. It's great to be here. We love doing this show here on the PCTV network, and of course we're our partners here at PCTV for over the past 5 years, actually almost 6 years, that we've been doing a show right here in the studio right here at Pottstown High School. It's been a wonderful partnership. So we have had the good fortune of being in the news lately, part of our I guess part of our public relations campaign. But just to kind of review some of the things that have happened with our company is I published an article in the Reading Eagle not too long ago, and then I published actually 2 articles in the Kiplinger newsletter, and then I was interviewed on Enterprise Radio, and you were featured in the Norristown Patch, and I believe there was another news outlet where you were featured, Steve. Do we have that one up there?
We do not. It's USA Advisor.
USA Advisor, yeah. Yep. So we have that one, and then you know, our colleague Barry was featured in I think he wrote an article for Investopedia, and he was also in Yahoo News. So it's a lot of good stuff there. And of course, you know, that's always been our mission to inform, hence the name Informed. But it's always been our mission to inform people. So we like that. We like this medium where we're doing you know, TV, and then, you know, of course we take our show on the road and we do, you know, live events, and, you know, in the past we've done radio, and now we're writing these articles, so it's all good.
Good.
Yep.
And Jeff, when we talk about financial planning, there's some building blocks or cornerstones, and one basic one is having a cash reserve, and then the second one is really protecting what you have and what you're going to have. So, but before we get into specific insurances, maybe go back, and what's the concept of insurance? How did it start?
Well, the concept of insurance, and insurance is a very, very vast subject, and, you know, you got everything from health insurance to life insurance to car insurance, property insurance. It covers the gamut. So in our practice, you know, it's really limited to, you know, life insurance and long-term care insurance, maybe sprinkled in there with maybe a little bit of disability. But the concept of insurance is really pooling your money and spreading the risk. Mm-hmm. Okay, so, you know, if you got a town full of 10,000 people, and everybody insures their house, it's only going to cost you a little bit of money, maybe a couple $100, and then if somebody's house burns down,
Yep.
that's really the money comes from the insurance, and that's really the all those premiums that are paid in. So it really spreads the risk out, and nobody minds paying the insurance. Well, I shouldn't say nobody minds. Of course, nobody likes paying insurance premiums, but you're getting a lot of protection and a lot of important coverage, for what you're paying for insurance premiums. So it's really a mechanism to spread the risk.
Spread the risk, yeah. And so, Jeff, when we get into life insurance, what can you tell us about that? Life insurance has different meanings in different times of people's life. So if you're younger versus when you're older.
Yeah. So yeah, there really is. I mean, starting right from the day you're born, there's life insurance. But I think when you're young, so to speak. So let's say you're just starting out in the world and you're just starting to work, and maybe you have some obligations. Maybe you have a young family, a wife, maybe young children, maybe some debt, a mortgage. So at that point in time, it's important to have life insurance, because if something happens to you, you die, the people that are left behind are left with, there's a significant loss because of the loss of your ability to generate income. So a lot of that is like, income replacement. Yeah. That's a lot of what's done early on with life insurance.
Okay, so early it's for the liabilities, it's for income replacement. So how does it fit to somebody who may be a little bit older, that maybe they have no mortgage?
Well, it's as time marches on, the complexity of the life insurance changes, and now your insurance is maybe more for asset replacement, or maybe it's to protect, maybe it's for tax efficiency, or it's, maybe you want to build a legacy with your family. There's really a lot of reasons why you want to buy life insurance when you're older. And then that's not even mentioning the long-term care insurance aspect of it, which that the whole landscape of long-term care insurance has changed dramatically in the last 10 to 15 years, whereby now a lot of people, most people, when they insure themselves for long-term care, they're doing it with life insurance. Okay. And they're putting on these long-term care access riders.
And at someone's death, how is life insurance taxed?
Well,
versus like an IRA
the short answer to that is if it's owned by an individual and the beneficiary is an individual, generally speaking, the death benefit is income tax free. Yep. And that's what makes it really appealing, because like if you look at a lot of the planning that we do, Steve, with clients have significant assets in retirement accounts, IRA accounts that are taxable. So upon death, there's a tax liability in some way, shape, or form. Yep. There's a tax liability. So the life insurance is often used to provide a tax-free death benefit. So an example of that would be, let's say you have a person who's got assets, predominantly in IRA accounts. Let's say they have $500,000 in IRA accounts, and it's husband and wife. Okay, husband dies. Okay, and the wife now gets the $500,000 in an IRA. As a spouse, you can just do an IRA rollover. Well, that IRA rollover is not a taxable event. Mm-hmm. Okay, you're just going from one tax-deferred account to another tax-deferred account. So if you have life insurance in there, so let's say they have a $500,000 life insurance policy. That life insurance policy goes to the wife in this example, goes income tax free. So then you can use that to create whatever liquidity you need in your estate. Maybe there's bills, maybe there's debt, maybe there's income that you need. That, you know, you can use the life insurance to do that while keeping the IRA in tax deferred status. So depending on your age, maybe there's required minimum distributions, maybe there's not. So maybe you take a little bit of income from that IRA, but the point is you don't have to liquidate the whole thing. Because can you imagine, Steve, you got a $500,000 IRA and you cash that all in at one time. That's all going to lay on your tax return as taxable income on top of whatever other income that you have.
Yeah.
So it's going to create a tremendous tax liability.
Yeah.
So life insurance is really there to provide tax-free liquidity for the estate. And the other example that I think is important here is when there's children involved. It's even more important to have some life insurance in place. Again, with respect to the IRA holder. So again, so now let's talk about this. The same husband has the IRA account for $500,000, and let's say his wife has already died. She's predeceased him. Okay, so now the beneficiary is likely going to be their children. Okay, so let's say they have 2 children and they name them equal beneficiaries, so they're each going to get half. So again, when the children get the life insurance, death benefit, that creates liquidity for the estate, and it allows them to take that IRA. Now they're taking the IRA as an inherited IRA, but they can preserve that in tax-deferred status through what we call a stretch-out IRA. We can stretch out that IRA over the course of their lifetime. So the kids might be in their 40s and 50s.
It seems like having the life insurance would give the children more control.
It gives them a lot more control, and it gives them a lot more control over the asset. It gives them a lot more flexibility. It gives them a lot more liquidity.
Yep.
And in a lot of cases, what we found is, like, especially if there's property involved. Let's say there's a house, right? Maybe you're not so desperate to sell the house because you don't know what the market's going to be like. Right. The real estate market. I mean, the real estate market, as we sit here today taping this, the real estate market's pretty decent, and you could probably sell your house fairly quickly. Mm-hmm. But 10 years ago, Steve, that wasn't the case. When the real estate market collapsed, I mean, you couldn't sell your house that quickly. Yep. But guess what? The state of Pennsylvania doesn't care, because you have to have an inheritance tax return filed 9 months after death. Yep. And those taxes have to be paid. So the money has to come from somewhere.
Right. Okay, well, good. So now when we get into different types of life insurance, the first one, we'll start with term insurance. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, term insurance does what the name implies. It insures you for a term, for a period of time. So it's in its purest form, it's the cheapest way to buy insurance, because you're getting insurance for a specific period of time, and when that time is up, the insurance is gone. Okay? So, and there's different forms of term insurance. There's annually renewable term, there's level term. Most people are familiar with level term. So, although group insurance is sort of a form of renewable term insurance. And I guess we can throw that into the discussion too, group insurance. But term insurance, so let's say that you're a 25-year-old person and you want to buy term insurance to cover your mortgage. So maybe you go out and buy a 25-year term policy. It's going to get you to 50. Yeah. Okay, so there's a number of companies that will sell you that policy and insure you for 25 years. So now you're insured 25 years going forward. So from 25 to 50, you have a policy. There's no moving parts. You're gonna pay the same premium every year. between 25 and 50, and the insurance company's going to figure it out. Actuarially, they're going to say, okay, well, in the beginning of it, he's going to be 25. At the end, he's going to be 50. So they figure out the risk that they have of him dying during that period, which, by the way, is very low, and that's why it's cheap.
Yep.
Okay, the chances of a male or a female dying between the ages of 25 and 50 is extremely low. Extremely low, and the insurance company has an extremely low risk of paying that death benefit, so that's why it's inexpensive. But nevertheless, as the insurers, what's important to understand with that policy, and we've had this conversation with many clients about this, when you're 50, it's done. When you're 51, you don't have insurance anymore. You've been insured for a term, and now what happens, you're 51, and if you want insurance, you're going to have to prove insurability again. So you're 51 now. So while now there might be some health issues, there might be, they look at your weight, they look at, what kind of medication you're taking.
Yeah.
Maybe the insurance is going to be, maybe they're going to rate you. They're going to, when I say rate, I mean it's going to be more expensive. They charge people higher rates for smokers versus non-smokers. All kinds of things come into play. You might not even be able to get it.
With pure term insurance, a lot of it isn't what's called convertible, and you may possibly pay a little bit more premium for a term insurance that's convertible. Should someone look out for that?
Yeah, that's always a nice feature to have, because if it's convertible, then the conversion means that you can move it from a term policy to some sort of permanent policy with the same company without proving new insurability, and that's the key.
Yep.
Without proving new insurability, because let's go back to the same example.
Yep.
You get a 25-year-old, and it's 25-year-old. They're buying 25-year term. And let's say there's a conversion feature that says, okay, within the first 10 years of the policy, we're going to allow you to convert this to any one of our permanent policies. Okay, so that gets you, now that gets you to 35, where you can say, okay, well, my circumstances have changed. Maybe you're making a little bit more money. Maybe you can afford to buy some permanent type of insurance that's going to build cash value that you can use to borrow off of, or start to fund your retirement, or any number of reasons. But the fact is now you have permanent insurance. So the conversion allows you to take that insurance rated class that you were in when you were 25, and now that's going to be your class permanently.
Right. And some say that they compare term insurance to permanent insurance. It's like leasing a home or buying a home. So we can get into the permanent insurance.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy, because in essence, with term insurance, you're renting the insurance. So you're insuring yourself for a specific period of time. Whereas if you have some type of a permanent policy, when we say permanent, we mean like whole life or universal life or some kind of permanent type product. Yeah, you own that, and it's going to be there, for the rest of your life, assuming you keep making the premium payments and assuming there's enough cash value and you meet all the stipulations of the policy, and yeah, you got permanent coverage.
Just like buying a home with a mortgage, pretty much.
Yeah, it's like buying a home with a mortgage. And it's interesting, Steve, and of course you and I have been in this business for a long time, and I got my life insurance license way back, over 25 years ago, and when you're trained, you see all the different types of insurance they are, and I've become a big believer in it. And when all 4 of my kids were born, I bought them policies that they have, permanent policies that they'll have, the rest of their life. My oldest son is now 30 years old, and I turned that policy over to him. Now it's his. He's, he owns it. So he's making the payments, and of course it's, we made it a little, it's got a lot more, it's got a lot more bells and whistles now. It's an indexed universal life policy. He makes his premium payments. The the gains in there are tied to an underlying index, and it's a way for him to have insurance and build cash value at the same time. So it's kind of a method of building some tax advantaged savings for him too. But let's say now he's healthy, but let's say he wasn't healthy. Here's permanent insurance that he always has, and that I bought for him when he was little, when he was a baby.
Yeah. And there's a couple types of permanent, and I don't want to get too deep, but when we look at a whole life versus a variable, what do they look like?
Well, whole life is the way I always explain the difference between whole life and universal life. It's where the risk lies. So with a whole life, because generally, given the same, giving everything's equal with the insured, comparing a whole life policy to a universal life policy, generally the universal life policy premiums are going to be less. And the reason for that, Steve, is because with a whole life policy, the insurance company is assuming more of the risk, more of the investment risk. Okay, so in other words, with a whole life policy, they declare a dividend. Okay, but with a universal life, it's not really a dividend per se. It's some type of, and there's different types of universal life. Because you said the word variable. So there's variable universal life. Well, the word variable means that your money's invested in stocks and bonds. So you're taking all the risk. So that could lose money, and you could lose your policy. You could lose your death benefit. So, and it's interesting because when I got into the business, that was the hot thing because it was the 90s, and you know what? The stock market was going up every year. So why not? And it was, I mean, it was the latest and greatest thing, So for those next 5-6 years, that was like a really, really popular type of insurance product. And of course, things changed when the tech bubble burst in 2000. Some of those policies got into a lot of trouble, and then more of the universal life and more of the guaranteed type universal life products became more prevalent.
And Jeff, you mentioned term insurance, and we talked about a 25-year-old to 50-year-old. The chances of that person dying are very, very, very small.
Very slim.
So, I've been told that the chances of a disability between those ages is much greater. So let's get into disability insurance a little bit.
Well, yeah, so that's true. So you have a much greater chance, especially if you're in some kind of a labor type job, where you're exerting physical labor. Yeah, there's a much greater chance. Or even like if you look at like a physician or something like that, where like it's specialized and you're working with, even there that takes some manual skill to do that. Yeah, so there's disability insurance, so that insures you. And so let's say you're unable to do your job, and now so how's your family protected? Well, you go out and you buy disability insurance, and it says, okay, well, you can't do your work anymore, so now you're going to have disability insurance protect that. And there's also Social Security disability, which is a whole other thing, but that's basically getting your Social Security benefit in the form of disability, and you're like, you don't have to wait till you retire, so you don't have to wait until you're 62 or 66 or whatever your retirement age would be. You can get that benefit early for disability. So it's a big thing. Yep.
And when we go into long-term care, because it's like disability insures your income, but long-term care might insure more of your retirement income if you need assistance.
Well, it's gonna insure your care. Like it's like beyond. It goes beyond health insurance. It's like custodial type care. So if you're in a nursing home or you need care at home, And back in the 90s, again, when you and I first got into the business, traditional, what I call traditional long-term care insurance, that was like all the rage.
Yep.
And of course our colleague Barry, like he was like a really an expert
Yep.
on long-term care. And what we have found over the years is those policies have become more and more expensive as insurance companies have more experience, and the costs have gone up, and people are living longer, and which translates to more chronic illnesses, and those premiums have really gone up a lot. So now people are migrating more towards these permanent insurance products that have long-term care access riders, which allow you to use the death benefit for long-term care if you need it.
If you need it, that's good. So Jeff, you wanted to talk a little bit about the CFP?
Yeah,
today?
so let's turn the tide here a little bit, Steve. So, by the way, all this stuff, if you need information on life insurance or any kind of insurance, if you want to give our office a call, we'd be happy to sit down with you, give you a free, no obligation consultation. You can give us a call. Our number's up on the screen. You can send us an email, and we'd be happy to do a review on your insurance if you would like. CFP. So I wanted to spend some time talking about the CFP designation today, Steve, because I think this is an important aspect of who we are and what we do. CFP is a certified financial planner, and of course you have that designation. And that's important to a lot of people when they're looking for a financial advisor. They want to look at somebody who has really gone through the rigors of education and gotten themselves to what I would consider the highest level of financial planning. So you have that designation of CFP. So Steve, what did you do to get that designation?
Okay. And when people are new, when potential clients are new to the industry, I like to say a CFP is very similar to a CPA, but for financial planning. And so what you have to have is you have to have at least 3,000 hours in the business. You have to have a college degree, and then they put you through testing. So there are 8 different topics and 8 different tests that you have to take, and then it all wraps up with what used to be a 2-day, 230 question test, and now they scaled that down to about 170 questions in a 1-day test.
Okay.
And that's where it really starts, because it's a higher fiduciary relationship with your client, is that you need at least 30 hours every 2 years of continuing education, which some of those have to be pure ethics.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's another level of
Okay.
fiduciary.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. And so you went through the rigors of getting that designation, and then there's continuing
Yes.
education that goes along with it.
Yes.
So okay. Well, that was good. That was enlightening, Steve. So this concludes another episode of Financially Speaking with Jeff Bush.